Since we have started Density Insights, a few guests and I have discussed how different investors with different backgrounds will have different preferences when it comes to real estate investing and leasing. Today, we want to explore how elderlies and retirees' preference when it comes to relocating to another countries or cities. We have Eric to share his insights on the relationship between retirement, immigration, and real estate. Hope you enjoy. Thank you. Hey, Eric, thanks for coming to the show.
Hey.
Yeah, so this is interesting because when we met last time through a friend called Jeff, and then Jeff was like, oh, I know someone who was a retirement immigration consultant, and then I think a lot of audiences might be interested in learning what that means and how does that relate to real estate. So before that, would you mind to tell the audience about yourself and then what kind of work you're working on?
Yeah, actually, I'm in retirement immigration, which of course is in the US. They talk about it as basically having a second home, basically retired to a place where it's cheaper and the weather is nicer and everything. So, so the whole thing about retirement immigration is all about retirement. Basically, how you can make have cheap for living and everything. So actually, I was the one who tried to find the places that suited to their needs, because some people like places maybe in Asia, some people like it in the Caribbean or something like that. As you know, that in America, basically the 5 places of the people who want to have second homes or immigration is, for example, maybe Ecuador, Panama, and Mexico, and maybe Thailand are the hot places that people want to retire with a second home. So as you say, even if you live there, you don't maybe need real estate. But basically for people, who wants to have, I want to have a roof over my top, I want to have that type of security, that would be something that we also do as well. And my background is basically finance. So basically, I truly understand that they want to be, not too expensive. They have enough to live on, or maybe also think about maybe retirement homes, or maybe more of in terms of medical or something like that. So these concerns will be also under consideration when they do consultation with me.
I see. So, our channel, Density Insight, is more about the real estate and obviously immigration, the kind of appetite you have if you're investing or you're renting, it really relates together. So before, so a lot of audience might not understand, actually myself as well, how many different type of immigration advisor consultant are there, and then how does a retirement immigration advisor do, and then most importantly, what's the difference compared to them? Is there a more marketing differences, or there's actually the way you look at how to service your clients? Is that where it differs?
I think that in other kinds of situations, I think people would just have an idea. Oh, I want to retire to places like Hawaii, or to reply to places like Thailand. They already have a place they have in mind, and basically just facilitate the people, maybe buying property, maybe just establish themselves there, or maybe opening an account, or maybe having a company there to run something. So these are other people already have ideas of. Whereas my job is basically to tell them, for example, I have no idea where I'm gonna go. My budget is certain example, so maybe like $1 million, would it be enough for me to go on or something? So I'll be the person to maybe to sit down with them and talk over what they have concerns about, because I have a financial background, so I know exactly the financial part. Can you buy an apartment there, or you rent, which is cheaper, which is more expensive? So these are the things that we can go through with them. So basically it's a bit different than for people just have an idea, like exactly when I go to a certain place, go to certain things. So we are much open to different places for them to consider. And of course, because of globalization, the world is your oyster. So these are the things that would be more of their own desires, rather than to say just give them a kind of a crash course. Oh, you just have to go somewhere, and not to give them a chance to really think about what suits them the most.
I see. So how we describe the relationship between retirement immigration and then real estate?
Retirement immigration is more of a sense of living, because the retirement you're talking about different kinds of maybe funds, or you have an annuity, or maybe you're talking about maybe different things. Real estate is only one part of the equation. It could be maybe I buy some places, maybe have a rental income, or maybe just a place I live or something like that. So it's only one part of maybe a 5 step situation with retirement immigration.
I see. So how are so obviously the most important thing that I'm gonna ask is about their behavior, because you're in finance background, so I'm sure you have when in doing your work you can think about what different investors have different appetites. So in this case, how are the retirees or elderly elderly that tend to be retirees are different compared to other demographics when it comes to real estate investing and renting. And then, I'm sure thinking about it in my head, elderly, for example, might desire buildings that will suit their needs. And then the neighborhoods really matter to them, if they're self-use. So would you mind painting a better picture or detailed picture for the audience?
I think that the similarities between, for example, just investing in immigration, or we're talking about talking about real estate, right? So I think that both of the things that we're talking about maybe is because of rental income or how much you can make out of it, the real estate. So that's very similar. But if you are thinking about living there in that place, of course, you're just talking about, people just thinking about maybe, is there maybe a hospital nearby? Is there any other things? Do I have to go far away to take a bus or something? Those would be other things that they're concerned about. So I think that in terms of, returns, is very similar. But in terms of living there in the community and everything, those would be very different if they are thinking about using the property for their own.
I see. So let's say, for example, right, in my head, right, is there a different, how do you explain it? How would they think about differently? Because obviously, for example, if I'm a young man, younger man, I'll think about long term, okay, maybe I just want to start a family. Maybe I will think about relocation there, 5 to 10 years from now. And obviously, retiree is very different. Maybe they are hey, make a lot of money. They want to retire. They want to get away with their kids who is working and they're older. And how when you suggest them about different type of real estate or suggest them that, hey, where they should live, do you factor that in, and does it really matter that much? Because it sounds like even in the return perspective, it's not that much difference.
Well, it depends. For example, if you're a younger person, you don't have enough, money. Basically, if you buy a property, most likely you have a mortgage or something like that, even in a foreign country. So maybe the part of your income would go into factoring in that foreign investment in property. Whereas for people who are retired, maybe they have expendable property, money, so they can just buy it, at a glance. So they don't need to think about, I have to just have a mortgage for think about maybe 3 or 4 years until, it's going to be mine. It could be yourself having that property maybe tomorrow or something like that. And also when you think about, retired people, think about basically they don't have to think about their kids, as you very put it. Maybe the kids, they have their own life and everything. So thinking about maybe my own life, for example, maybe go to Hawaii or something, having golf or financial freedom for retirees when they consider this thing, rather than to say that you are 30-year-old, you have to think about your kids and you have to think about your own retirement. Is actually in the back of your mind because you have to get your kids through college first. So that's very different mentality.
So what's the trends in terms of retirement, immigration, and relocation? Because we're from Hong Kong,
right.
I'm sure you're more familiar with the area. And then what are things that they should be aware if they're the audience and listen to this whole video at the moment?
I think that the point is that, when you're thinking about the place, that's fine. But you think if you're buying a property from abroad, basically you make sure that the developers are very reputable. Because there are a lot of soft stories of people, investing in developing countries, maybe Vietnam, maybe Laos or something. You think, it's a great place to retire or a great place to have a place. But, you don't know developers, they might have just disappear after things. So buying a property from abroad basically is the risk that you have to know people who are developing it and everything. So I think that was the most important thing when you think about buying foreign property. I think that's 101 for even if you are a 30-year-old or you are a retired person. But of course, with a retired person, you don't have enough money. Basically, you don't have to. For a younger person, they lost it all, they can make it again or something like that. So that part you have to think very carefully when you make a decision.
I see. So, just now you mentioned Vietnam and Laos, right? Are those regions kind of popular right now? What kind of regions that right now, a lot of people are thinking about relocation, towards it?
I think that for people actually living there, like I think it would be places like, Thailand or Malaysia, Taiwan, Panama, or all these other places, which of course is warmer, it's cheaper, and these are the things that people can think about living. For example, Taiwan, because it speaks Chinese and everything. Of course, the food is very similar, and the calligraphy is the same. And Thailand, basically, people like Thai food or something. So it's about, if you think about living there, you have to make sure that you have to live a life, that it will be comparable for you. It's not like living in the Middle East or living in Africa is a totally different thing, even though it may be cheaper, but people won't consider that because of the huge cultural gap.
I see. So actually, would you mind doing this exercise with me? Because like, I want to know, let's say, for example, if one day, 20, 30 years down the line, if I ever need to, like someone like you help me out with it, how's the journey like? Would you mind walking me through the journey?
How's the journey like?
So let's say this, right? I'll come find you and say, hey, Eric, I heard about you, I kind of interested in, retire somewhere else, and I really want to move somewhere else. Like how would the conversation be like?
I think that because as you know that I'm basically an asset management person, so the thing that, for example, what kind of place you like, how much budget you have, and basically, do you have any constraints about places that you the person or you? Because I think these are very important, because whether or not you have enough money, whether or not you'd like a place or have a preference, because if you like Thailand or you don't like places like maybe the Bahamas, I can push Bahamas till the cows come home, and it doesn't make a difference because you already have something, I like Southeast Asia or something like that. So I'll be basically working with you, not trying to push something into you. I think that's the difference between a consultant and someone who just sells these things, because hey, I just had all these things in my palette, so I just sell them to you, rather than to listen to what you want and basically work with you to achieve your goal, which of course I think is the most important.
I see. So let's say, for example, okay, you kind of have suggestions of, where I should go, where should I live? And I'm like, what, sounds like a good idea, So what's the next step for, how would you help me? Because I want to see the whole scope, what kind of things that you would help me, and how, for example, if I go to a place that I am not familiar at all, what was something that you help me to understand it, or help me to settle into the location? Is that part of the scope as well for a consultant like yourself?
I think so. If I always sort of encourage people to go to that place, to visit at least, because if you're thinking about living there long term, it doesn't make any point to just, I want to go there tomorrow. I've never been there before. I think that people made a very bad mistake in the 80s. Remember, everyone wanted to go to Canada. They like Canada. They like the stuff. But when they got there, oh my God, there's so much snow. It's so cold. I cannot find work, and everything comes out. So they have to, sell their place, come back, and everything was a fiasco. So I think I would say to people, hey, maybe you can go there together and look at the place and see if you like it. You like it, we can think about buying a place and doing the paperwork and everything. Start doing from that side. Because if you don't feel right, you can just do all the work and then you don't want to go eventually. So seeing is believing is very true.
I see. So does that mean that you also help them suggest what kind of property they should invest, or what area they should go to, or even so you kind of I wouldn't say replacing the real estate agent role, but you kind of have the elements, kind of like a filter, in a certain way. Am I correct?
Yeah, exactly. For example, we have people, on the ground, maybe in places like Thailand or something. So I can tell you, there are actually people who immigrated from Hong Kong to Thailand. So they can tell you, these are the things I went through. And basically, I don't want you to go through it. Basically, all this kind of food, places to buy stuff. So basically, you have to walk through it, with the person to make sure that, that's what they wanted. And if after they experience it, I was like, okay, do it. If they did, oh my God, I just found out that I don't like it. So basically, that's the thing, that to stop, because I think it's important that for the people to really know the place, because living there, especially if you are a retiree, you don't have a lot of choices. Basically, you sell your place, you come here, and then found out that you got to make the wrong decision. I think that's a disaster by itself. So I think that as a consultant, you want to make sure that they see what they want and basically not to have any regrets when you go through it, basically. I think a tour, for example, to go there to see the property and also to see the lifestyle there is important because you need to experience it. It's not that's not responsible. That's into the whole work. This would be too disingenuous for me, at least.
I see. So, so as a consultant, right, yourself,
Right.
like, helping people to immigrate somewhere else, like relocation and so on. So I guess that you also cover helping them to apply for visa or apply for permanent status, right? So, and obviously there's some countries would require you to, have a certain asset or invest in a certain amount. Am I correct?
Right. Right.
So what are those places are? And then because I want to give the audience a better idea, because obviously I did some homework before that. And I want to know that because that's a key point is that a lot of people say, hey, I want to invest in this location because I get a visa easier. So can you give me some examples of what countries and about how much they would need? And then what kind of criteria of different locations that's kind of popular at the moment?
So I'll just tell you the two the most popular location from the Hong Kong point of view at this time. I think either is Taiwan and Thailand. Taiwan is because, of course we speak the same language and everything, and the same calligraphy and, the food is similar. And basically it's like 1.5 million needed to immigrate there. And after that, basically, just have to invest in the business and go through the paperwork and stuff. So basically, if you have $2 million, basically, you are sort of like, okay, you can sort of like do that, basically, to go through the point.
So it's 2 million, but 2 million, you means like, US dollars or Hong Kong dollars we're talking about?
Hong Kong dollars. Hong
Okay.
Kong dollars, 1.5 million plus maybe another, a half a million just to make sure you have a place to live and everything. So this is the money you need to put aside for that. So that's the basic budget. So
does that mean that you have to have the amount in your bank account, or you have to invest in like an asset in Taiwan or companies?
The 1.5 million that you need to invest for 3 years. So that is like that budget is a no-goner. But of course, if you want to buy a place in Taiwan, that's extra. That's not needed. You need to stay there for 1 year, you can rent or something. There are a lot of different options. For example, this is for the Taiwan, investment immigration. Like, for example, another case would be Thailand, which of course they don't have immigration to a certain extent, but they have the golden visa. Basically, of course, it's like put $1 million Hong Kong into a bank account and you can stay there for 10 years. So staying there for 10 years means that, of course, you have to rent a place at least, but buying a place will be optional. So this is the kind of thing that we do because the budget is very similar, very, very clear to the person who is interested. Whether or not they want to buy a luxury flat in Chiang Mai or something, that's their choice, or maybe just buy a little flat in Bangkok just to make sure that close to shopping or something. That's their kind of situation as well.
I see. I think I have interviewed with two Malaysia experts, and then they have mentioned something called MM2H. It's like a scheme, I think. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, actually, it's very similar to the Taiwan thing, but unfortunately, I just heard about 2 days ago the Malaysian government just stopped everything. So it's very interesting. That's why I don't like Malaysia. The money cannot go in and out. The ringgit is not very transferable. Or in KL that, I feel it's a bit confined. So that's the reason I don't want to do it.
Oh, that's cool. Everyone's different that way, right? And this show is about, well, this show is about that. This show is not like, it's about, hey, you want to understand real estate investing. What's for you, what's not for you. It's totally up to this. And obviously this show is meant to cover everything as much as possible to help people.
Definitely.
So I want to look into, let's say, because while talking to you before preparing for it, I'm very interested in the retirees and elderlies mindset. Not saying that all your clientele is going to be older people. It might be younger that retire. Hopefully I'll become that one day, retire soon. But then, so let's say, for example, right, what are things that, if it's elderly, for example, in this situation, what things do they think a lot more when it comes to amenities? And then, what are kind of things that they worry about when moving that's maybe a younger generation like myself might not think about?
I think it's all about would they find friends, or would they be happy, or the living standard is going to be expensive, or where to. For example, for older people, they might need to have a maid or something to help them work or something, and of course the transportation is something that need to be confirmed. So basically, these are the worries they have moving to a new country, because Hong Kong was so easy to really move around. Then you go to Thailand. Of course, compared to like Bangkok is actually very easy, because with the sky train or something, everything is very nice. But when you go to places like Chiang Mai, you might have to have a car or something. So these things are something that maybe for some people would be I need to get a car, or I need to get a driver or something like that. So it really depends, on these things. But of course, these are the things that they would worry the most, or if they have like long-term health problems, they would think, is there a hospital nearby? Because they worry at a place like in Bangkok, because the traffic is so damn bad, so that you have something, an accident or something, maybe you die on the way to the ambulance or something. There was a running joke about that. So basically, they want to live closer to a hospital or a clinic, so that they're able to use the facilities much more easier. So that is another thing that being asked a lot about.
I see. So even in my head right now is that even if, let's say, for example, and obviously I look in the real estate perspective, you think about each location, where is the closest amenities to all the like the community aspects? Is there a mall next by? Is there like a food court nearby? And is there a hospital nearby? So it will tend to be in the middle of the city area. Am I correct? Like if you kind of like
or close to, or yeah, if you have to travel, and that basically like maybe it's just like car 5 minutes or something. Close you are, or something like that.
I see. So yeah, I think that like it's just one question that have always been in my head, right? Is that like I don't really come by a lot of immigration like advisor or consultants. But what's the reason behind it? And obviously it's a personal question, because for me, for example, it took me so long to find someone like you in your background, which is, I'm very honest, it's very rare for me. And then in people in our industry, it was like, oh yeah, I never know where to find them. Like is there like a way to easily like access to this kind of information, or find someone like yourself for your kind of services?
I think that because I was in the finance field, and because I was in sales, it comes rather natural, because we do a lot of different types of stuff, maybe not only just stocks or bonds or something, but also other things, maybe art investment, like property. So actually, like immigration is just another step on the story. Whereas, because a lot of people are actually very one-track minded. So you see a lot of things like, ads about going to Taiwan, going to Malaysia, going to Portugal. So people, it seems easy to put things in the boxes. Whereas we are basically more or less like a consultant, to be able to go through it like a kind of a private banker kind of mentality. So that, what do you want? I can do what for you, rather than to say, Portugal is great. I just sell you Portugal. I'll tell you all about Portugal, because I'm all about Portugal. Or I'm all about Taiwan or Thailand. And then basically that's it. That's the story. So of course, it's much easier to do one story than 5 or 6 stories.
I see. Yeah, it seems like that's something that the audience should take notes, is because a lot of times is that like there are some people, and some of us in their role, they have to sell really hard on that one product they have on their hands, whereby it's a lot more important to see, hey, take a step back to see different options and say, hey, maybe this location is not the is not the only option, and then we'll just come to like something that like I think something that like the audience might want to know more is that how we suggest the audience to learn more about the subject, like what are some sources besides reaching out to you that they can read more and learn further?
Yeah, what I just said was, there's so much information out there, like which of course is in the social media, on newspapers, and there's not a lack of information. Maybe there's too much information to go through. So basically, if you want to find something that you want, basically you have to go through, sift through all the information, because everybody has part of the solution, but not the full solution. And then you have to go through that. For me, to help a person, basically I can sort of like find what you want and try to find whatever aspect that what they have currently can suit your needs. So that's a different, more of like make it for you type of situation, rather than to go through one size fits all. Like go to a shoe shop, basically they don't have a size, so basically you have to put a smaller size or put a pad on it, something like that. So it's actually the very same thing, to sometimes it's very difficult to find exactly what you want.
About the whole the data, like the information all over the place. I think that's what density is for, right? So yeah. So I think there are a lot more questions, and then I obviously, if the audience have any comments and questions, I can always refer to you. And then just lastly, what kind of takeaway would would you want the audience to have by the end of this video?
I think that I hope that the audience, after they see this video, they think that they have choices. I think the most important thing, people just think that whatever the outside world gives you, you have to do Panama, you have to do Portugal, or whatever the places. It's just that they're serving that. But the point is that if you want something, you can also do some searches for it, and also to find someone like me that can find exactly what you want for you. I think that's very important, because the power is in the of course, with someone like me, basically it will be easier than to just sift through all the established information and to find something that really like. So basically it's a process.
I see. I think that's a good way to end the show. And then if the audience want to reach out to you to learn more about you, what are some methods that you suggest them to find you?
Basically, I'm in LinkedIn, so that they can find me there. Is under Eric Lowe. So basically, it's you can find me over there, or I can leave my phone number or something like that if they want.
Yeah, I can put everything in the show notes, and then I just want to say thanks for your time. And then I think that even though retirement, immigration, and real estate, it obviously not a very hard tight correlation, but they are related together hand to hand, because in my head is that there are times that I had to relocate, not retire, but relocate, and then the question would be oh my God, where should I live there? Where should I go? What's around me? Is there things that I'm familiar with? I think that's kind of tied to my memory back in high school when I go to Vancouver. And then my dad, my first comment my dad said was that, hey, how far is the Chinese food restaurant away from the school? And I was just oh, right, that's a very important one. And obviously this is a very small kind of thing back then, but now think of it as that, hey, that's something that if you're moving a far away, don't just rely on Google Map. You should really rely on having someone like yourself know what's going on, at least, or even go to the place first to figure out if that's a place for you. So, and as I want to say, Eric, thanks for your time, and I really appreciate it, and I hope that come back next time if you can.
Okay, no problem. Having a good time.
Yeah, thank you, and have a good one.
You too. Have a good day.
Bye. You too. Bye. Thanks for watching. What do you think of this episode? Please let us know in the comment below, and be sure to hit the subscribe button to keep in touch with us for upcoming videos. But before we go, I want to give a big shout out to Petina Design Lab. They're the one who help us in making our brand, our direction, as well as these videos. They are a strategic design consultancy firm to help businesses with a wide range of design services, from industrial design, branding, graphic design, art direction, content creation, and many more. They are a very talented bunch, and I urge you to check out their website for their work. That's all for today, and see you next time. Cheers.